They called it the sleep. Not slumber in the usual sense. No dreams, no tossing beneath blankets, no rhythm of night and day. This was deeper, older, a forgetting, a design etched into the very biology of human beings. It was something in their bones, in the patterns of their thoughts, in the stories they told each other to feel safe in a world they never fully understood. And for thousands of years, no one questioned it. No one had to, until Kira. She was 29 the first time she saw the pattern. Not with her eyes, but with her mind. Something clicked or cracked or realigned. She would never know what precisely changed, but it came as suddenly and inevitably as a breath. One moment she was leaning against the rain-specked glass of a subway car, earphones in, thinking about what takeout to order that night. The next, the world rippled. Just a hair, and the illusion began to peel. Not everyone could see it, and those who could often lost their grip on everything else. Kira didn't want to be one of them. She tried for days to shake the sense that something was off, that the rhythm of the world around her was too perfect, too rehearsed. Conversations repeated themselves with eerie precision. The same woman laughed at the same joke at the same bus stop every Friday. News headlines circled like vultures, rotating subjects without meaning. The world spun on cue. She told no one. Not at first, but silence became unbearable. When she finally spoke, it was to Elias, her brother, her only real family, a systems engineer and cynic with the emotional range of a marble. She expected him to scoff. He didn't. Instead, Elias went quiet, unusually so. Then he muttered, "You saw it too?" It wasn't validation that chilled her. It was the grief in his voice. Like he'd want to protect her from this. "I've been mapping the anomalies," he said after a long pause, pulling up a file on his tablet. Strings of code, heat maps, signals. They all meant little to Kira, but the trembling in his hand told her enough. The sleep is a lattice, not just social programming. There are deeper restrictions, neurological, even atomic. We were engineered to stay dormant. Engineered by who? He shook his head. That's the wrong question. Then what was the right one? 3 weeks passed in a blur of sleepless nights and locked-door conversations. Kira started noticing others, strangers in crowds whose eyes met hers a second too long, whose expressions flickered with that same question, that same ache. They were waking up too, or trying to. They formed a loose group, 7 in total, each with a different trigger that broke the illusion. For one, it was a near-death experience. For another, an inexplicable déjà vu that escalated into full episodes. Some found clues in old texts, others in the patterns of light or static or language. None of them understood what they were fully dealing with, but they knew it was ancient, intentional, and fragile. Why now? Asked Tova, a linguist who'd lost a university post after scribbling forbidden glyphs over her lecture slides. Why are we waking up now? Elias offered one theory. Something's breaking down. A fail-safe, maybe. Or someone's tampering from the outside. Outside of what? Kira asked. No one answered. They met underground, both literally and metaphorically, inside the labyrinth of unused subway maintenance tunnels. Elias had found the place during his mapping project. It was far below any surveillance threshold, and to their knowledge, no one else knew about it. They called it the nest. Here, truths were spoken aloud, speculation that would have led to arrest or commitment if shared above ground. Here, they could peel the edges of the lattice, poke at the fault lines, share findings. The more they pieced together, the clearer the architecture of the sleep became. It wasn't just social conditioning. It was written into the hardware of the human race. Chemical inhibitors embedded in the brain. Electromagnetic frequencies tuned to suppress critical awakenings. Even myths, crafted, seeded, and maintained over generations to discourage curiosity. Religion, advertising, childhood fairy tales. All part of the same system. Distraction, sedation, stasis. But someone or something was failing to keep the net intact. The more Kira saw, the more terrified she became. Because waking up wasn't enlightenment. It was disorientation, pain, grief, the loss of safety and lies. And no one could say what lay on the other side. The group started calling themselves fractals, borrowed from one of Elias's models. Patterns within patterns, breaking and repeating, always evolving. A nod to the fact that maybe the sleep had never been absolute, that perhaps a few always woke, only to be erased or driven mad or silenced before they could connect. Then Armin disappeared. He'd been the first to map frequency breaks, places where the lattice's grip weakened, moments when the real bled through. His notes were detailed, mathematical, hard to fake. One day, he didn't show up to a nest meeting. His apartment was empty, his calm silent. No record of him remained in city logs, even his name erased from university archives. Kira panicked. The others started arguing. Had they been found? Were they just pawns in another layer of the simulation? Could they trust each other? But it was Elias who forced calm. If they're watching us, he said, then we're close to something. Kira couldn't sleep after that. The nights blurred, filled with intrusive thoughts and flashes of memories she couldn't place. A pale hallway, a silver door, her mother's voice, not how she remembered it, but slower, echoing, almost mechanical, and always the same phrase. You were never meant to wake up. One night, driven by something she couldn't name, Kira returned to the subway car where it had all started. It was empty, unusually so, the lights dimmer than she remembered. The train moved, but the windows showed nothing. No tunnels, no lights, only black. Then the car stopped. The door opened to an empty station with no name. She stepped out. The platform hummed beneath her feet. Ahead, a single light flickered above a metal panel embedded in the wall. No signs, no warnings, just a simple screen and a biometric reader. Her hand moved on its own. The panel scanned her. Then the screen flashed. Access granted. Behind her, the train vanished. Before her, the wall split open. Kira stepped into the dark. The corridor stretched on, colder with each step. Kira's breath clouded in the sterile air, a sharp contrast to the thick humidity of the city above. Lights flickered rhythmically in the ceiling above her, each pulse feeling less like illumination and more like a test. The deeper she went, the clearer the sound of her heartbeat became. And beneath it, another beat, machine-like, patient, waiting. At the end of the corridor, the door was already open. She entered a chamber unlike anything she'd seen. Not futuristic, not ancient, but something suspended between time. The walls were glass, but opaque, every surface humming faintly as though alive. In the center stood a single chair facing a screen that buzzed softly. Then the screen lit up. A symbol pulsed. Not words, not a language, but shape she recognized instantly from her dreams. A spiral fractal shifting infinitely inward. A voice, neither male nor female, spoke. You have crossed the threshold. Kira tensed. What is this place? Observation point theta. The voice replied. One of many. You were not expected to reach it. She stepped back, adrenaline spiking. Then why open the door? You touched the pattern. The system reacts to divergence. Kira shook her head, trying to anchor herself. Who built the sleep? Who decided we should know the truth? There is no who. The design predates your language, your history, your species. So we're prisoners of an ancient system? You are continuations of it. Her hands curled into fists. That's not an answer. It is the only one this interface is permitted to give. She turned away, disgusted. This is just another distraction. Another dead end. But as she stepped toward the exit, the lights dimmed. The screen changed. A feed began to play. Grainy at first, then sharp. It showed Elias. Sitting at his desk, eyes hollow, face pale. Stop, she whispered. He has touched the convergence, the voice said. He sees more than the pattern. He has become a risk. No, he's careful. He has initiated a signal. A signal? Kira's mind reeled. Elias hadn't told her anything about a signal. Had he found a way to broadcast? To reach others? Or to bring down the lattice? Show me, she said. The feed shifted. Data streamed, coordinates, pulses, encrypted phrases, transmitting from a device in Elias's apartment. She recognized the interface. It was part of the toolkit he'd never let anyone else touch. She felt betrayal surge, then fear. Elias had kept secrets. But maybe he'd meant to protect her. Does the system know? She asked. Awareness is increasing. Then I have to warn him. You may go. The door opened again behind her. But this time, she noticed something new. A faint glow along the wall, glyphs. The same kind Tova had drawn during her blacklisted lecture, except these pulsed with color, almost inviting her to trace them. She hesitated. You cannot take knowledge without consequence, the voice said. I'm not here to take. I'm here to remember. Her fingers brushed the glyphs. A rush of sensation struck her, not just memory, but identity. Flashbacks that didn't belong to this life. Hands typing in languages she never learned. A silver sky. A planet that wasn't Earth. Then it was gone. The voice was silent. She ran. Back through the corridor, through the vanished station, through a different train that had no passengers and no sound. When she emerged, dawn was breaking. But the city felt wrong, off by degrees. People moved like usual, but their timing was out of sync, as if a puppeteer had tripped over their own strings. She didn't go home. She went to the nest. Only Elias was there. He looked up with bloodshot eyes and a stillness that alarmed her. No sarcasm. No guarded grin. Just emptiness. I saw you, she said quietly. The interface showed me. He didn't flinch. Then it's too late. For what? I activated the beacon. Kira's breath caught. Why? Because the lattice isn't breaking on its own, he said. It's adapting. Sealing cracks faster than we can find them. We needed a rupture. A rupture could kill people. I programmed it to resonate only with the anomalies, those close to waking. You didn't tell me. You would have tried to stop me. She stared at him. Her brother, her anchor, now a stranger in service of a cause even he no longer fully trusted. His hands trembled, not with guilt, but withdrawal. From sleep, maybe. From illusion. The cost of seeing too much. You're changing, she whispered. So are you. Before she could answer, Tova rushed into the nest, face pale, lips trembling. They're watching, she gasped. Someone was outside my door last night. They didn't knock. Just stood there, silent. They're accelerating, Elias said. The lattice is aware we're coordinating. Then we need to move, Kira said. Scatter, change locations. No, Elias interrupted. We go to Source Zero. Kira blinked. That's a myth. Not anymore, he said. The glyphs you saw in Theta, they match an underground site in New Tharsis. That's across the continent. We leave tonight. Kira nodded, but her thoughts spun. Why now? Why reveal Source Zero? Unless Elias had known all along. Unless this was part of a larger game he hadn't explained. Her trust in him cracked, not completely, but enough to echo. She kept the memory of the glyphs to herself. That night, as they prepared to leave, Kira found herself alone on the edge of the nest, watching the underground shadows breathe in silence. She thought of Armin, of the signal, of the phrase the interface had whispered in a voice too close to human. You were never meant to wake up. But she had. And now, there was no going back. Ready for Section 3? The desert outside New Tharsis was a dead ocean of dust, rust-colored hills stretching beneath a violet sky, cut only by the steel ribbon of the maglev line. It had taken Kira and the others 2 days to reach the outer limits of the abandoned city, moving in silence, changing transports twice, erasing digital footprints. Each hour tightened the space between them, not physically, but psychologically. Suspicion brewed like a silent storm. They had dwindled to 5. Tova hadn't shown up at the rendezvous point. Her last message had been fragmented, voice crackling with panic. Something's wrong. I can't tell what's mine anymore. My thoughts, then static. Elias wanted to continue. Kira hesitated. She felt it. The slow, suffocating pressure of the sleep, like it was adapting again, curling into the gaps of their consciousness. But something inside her, something awakened at Theta, urged her forward. They crossed into the ruins of New Tharsis under nightfall, once a government research site, now a ghost shell. No lights, no guards, only the hollow wind and collapsed towers. But Elias had coordinates. The site he believed to be Source Zero was buried beneath what had once been a biomedical annex, now a tilted carcass of concrete and rebar. The entrance lay beneath a collapsed floor in the annex's southern wing. It was a narrow shaft, barely wide enough for a person to descend, and it dropped into pitch black. Kira went first, her fingers scraping the smooth sides, boots clanging down the old maintenance ladder. When she hit bottom, her breath hitched. The hallway was clean, not dusty, not abandoned, lit by faint, humming strips embedded in the ceiling. Something was still maintaining it. Elias dropped down behind her, then Reyna, a former cognitive architect who defected from a private sleep research syndicate. Last was Mathis, whose silence had deepened since Tova's disappearance. He hadn't spoken since they left the city. Kira no longer knew what he was thinking or whether he trusted any of them. They moved cautiously, boots echoing in the corridor. The structure felt wrong. The air was too clean, the geometry too precise, and the walls pulsed faintly with that same fractal symbol Kira had seen at Theta. "I've never seen energy readings like this," Elias muttered, studying his scanner. "This place is alive." They reached a sealed chamber, its door marked with a glyph identical to the one on Kira's palm, still faintly glowing from Theta's interface. Without hesitation, she pressed her hand to the panel. The door melted open. Inside was a circular room, bare except for a platform in the center and a ring of thin, translucent cables trailing from the ceiling. The hum grew louder. Kira stepped forward, but Elias grabbed her arm. "Wait, this is beyond data collection. This is root code." "You mean it's the source of the sleep? Or a failsafe? Or a memory bank?" "I don't know." "Then we find out," she said, pulling free. She stepped onto platform. The cables descended like curious fingers, brushing her shoulders, wrapping around her skull. She flinched, but they were gentle. Then she was gone. Not physically, but the room vanished. Her body stood still on the platform, but her mind dropped through layers of perception. Vision fractured into 1,000 shards, each showing a different timeline, different version of Earth. In some, the world burned. In others, it bloomed, untouched by cities. In one, she saw herself, older, different, eyes filled with stars. A voice spoke, not the interface, but something older. "You are a convergence echo." "What does that mean?" "You are not the first you, nor the only. Are you the architects?" "We are the memory of the attempt." Kira tried to hold on to something, logic, identity, her name, but it dissolved in the onslaught of sensory input. There were other versions of her, in other lattices, all reaching the same point. A singular pattern repeated across a multiversal script. "You were never meant to wake," the voice said, "but convergence forces emergence." "Why?" "Because the system is incomplete. The lattice was designed to hold awareness at bay until it matured. But interference fractured the delay cycle." "Who interfered?" The voice did not answer. Instead, it showed her Elias, connected to another terminal, eyes wide, mouth whispering numbers. He was broadcasting, not just a signal, but a question, a call across versions, a plea to converge the fractured selves into something cohesive. "He's calling the others," she said. "Yes," the voice replied. "He is attempting synthesis." "Will it work?" "That is not known." Her body snapped back into place. The cables withdrew. She fell to her knees. Elias rushed forward, face pale. "What did you see?" "Everything," she said. "And nothing. We're echoes." Elias didn't seem surprised. "They told me something similar, that the sleep wasn't to suppress us. It was to protect us from seeing too soon." Kira looked at him. "Then why are we waking up now?" He hesitated. "Because someone is accelerating convergence." Kira stared. "You think it's you?" "No," he whispered. "I think it's you." Before she could respond, the chamber shook. A low-frequency hum built into a roar. Lights flickered red. The cables retracted into the ceiling, convulsing. Mathis shouted from the doorway, "Something's coming. I don't think it's human." Kira's pulse surged. Is the system retaliating? Not the system. Elias said. The custodians. From the corridor emerged shapes, smooth humanoid, but wrong. Too symmetrical. No faces. No sounds. Just presence. Reyna fired first. The pulse weapon barely slowed them. The group fled back into the corridor. Down side tunnels Elias barely remembered from schematics. The echoes of their boots blended with the hum of pursuit. But something else pulsed in Kira's chest, a resonance, as if the glyphs inside her were vibrating in response to the threat. They rounded a corner and found a sealed bulkhead. End of the line, Elias said. No, Kira said, placing her hand to the panel. The glyph reappeared. The door opened. Beyond was not a tunnel, but chamber of light, pure, warm, silent. No walls, no ceiling, a sky of white. They stepped in. The door closed behind them. The chamber became still. The faceless figures did not follow. Inside, the hum ceased. The light held them gently. It wasn't sterile or artificial. It was memory. Calm. A place out of time. Kira turned to Elias. This is it, she said. The heart. He nodded. Or the dream before the dream ends. Their journey wasn't over. But something fundamental had shifted. The lattice hadn't broken. It had opened. And the ones who dared walk through were now more than just awake. They were responsible. The light never dimmed. It didn't flicker or change you. Time, inside the chamber, had no weight. Kira paced the edges, though there were none. She felt the boundaries in her mind more than on the surface beneath her feet. It was not a place, but a state. Elias sat cross-legged near the center, eyes closed. Mathis stood motionless, arms folded, facing outward as if guarding against a threat that could not exist here. Reyna knelt, muttering quietly to herself. She had not spoken since the custodians failed to breach the chamber. Kira finally asked, "How do we leave?" Elias opened one eye. "Maybe we're not supposed to. I refuse to believe this is the end," she said. "This isn't freedom. It's suspension. It's protection," Mathis said suddenly. "The light, it's not neutral. It's buffering us from something worse." Kira knelt beside Elias. "You've been quiet," he sighed, "because I'm beginning to think we didn't wake up. We just stepped into a deeper dream." Her jaw clenched. "Then we pushed through. Again." He looked at her, really looked, and in his face was something she hadn't seen since childhood. Fear without a mask. "You didn't see the last memory the chamber showed me. It wasn't a future. It was a recursion. All of this, our rebellion, the nest, source zero, we've done it before." She shook her head. "No, that can't be. You said it yourself. We're converging. We're closer than ever. That's the problem. Every time convergence nears completion, the system resets. Or worse, it evolves to make the next divergence harder to detect. You think we're a repeating loop? I think we're the virus in the code. And every time we grow, the system rewrites reality to contain us." Kira turned away, frustration boiling. "Then what's the point of any of this?" To remember, a voice answered, not from Elias or Reyna or Mathis, but from the light itself. To reach the state where forgetting is no longer an option, the light twisted, forming patterns in the air, fractal glyphs dancing like flame. Each pulse with meaning Kira didn't fully understand, but recognized. You have touched the convergence. But understanding is insufficient. Synthesis requires choice. "What choice?" she asked. "To end the loop." Elias stood, body rigid. "How?" The light pulsed again. "One of you must stay." They froze. Kira's heart sank. "You mean stay here? In this chamber?" "In this layer," the voice clarified, "to anchor the memory. Without an anchor, the system will reabsorb the anomaly." Elias took a step forward. "Me then." "No," Kira caught his arm. "It doesn't have to be you." Mathis broke the silence. "I'll do it." Kira turned, startled. "You barely know me," he said, eyes cold but resolute. "But I remember now. I've been part of every loop. I just didn't realize it until Theta. Always the bystander. Always surviving. That was my role. I never disrupted the pattern. Reyna looked up. But anchoring means dissolution. Yourself, your ego will fragment. I know, he said, but maybe that's the only thing I'm useful for. Kira moved to stop him, but Elias held her back. He's right, he said quietly. We're too entangled. We destabilize the anchor. Mathis stepped into the center of the chamber. The glyphs swarmed him, forming a lattice of light. He didn't cry out. He didn't tremble. He simply stood still and closed his eyes. The light dimmed. The chamber shuddered. Then everything inverted. One moment, Kira stood in light. The next, she stood in a rain-soaked alleyway beneath a neon sky. Thunder cracked overhead. The others, Elias, Reyna, appeared around her, disoriented but intact. They were back. The city was the same, yet not. Cleaner, brighter. The skyline shimmered with unfamiliar architecture. A voice echoed faintly from a nearby billboard. Welcome to the unified Dreamscape. All anomalies have been integrated. Kira staggered. Did we do it? Elias stared up at the screen, eyes hard. No, it's a new version. Reyna turned in a slow circle. But we're awake. We remember. That's what scares me, Elias murmured. This layer is designed to accept us, not to fight us. They're not suppressing convergence anymore, Kira said. They're co-opting it. Reyna looked at them. What if that's worse? They moved through the streets, unnoticed. People smiled blankly. Surveillance drones hovered overhead, not in secrecy, but celebration. Reality had absorbed their defiance, stylized it, commodified it. Their faces were now part of an ad. Live your true pattern. Converge today. Elias stopped walking. They turned us into product. Reyna swore. Mathis died for this? No, Kira said. He anchored the truth. We just have to access it. She tapped her temple. It's still here. I can feel the glyphs. We need a breach point, Elias said. Somewhere the system hasn't overwritten. There's only one, Reyna said grimly. The original node, deep beneath Core Citadel. The oldest fragment of the pre-lattice era. Getting there would trigger every failsafe. Elias smiled darkly. Then we trigger them. Kira felt a shift inside her. Not fear, not yet hope, but clarity. They hadn't escaped. They'd been upgraded. The sleep hadn't ended. It had evolved. But so had they. And next time, it wouldn't be a convergence. It would be collapse.